Greetings to all. My name is Jeremy Schaefer, and I am recording this video for future programmers. Look, it's right there in the title I have next to me. HTML and CSS for future programmers. HTML and CSS are two really old languages. They've been around for a long time, and they are everywhere. So the fact that you want to spend some time learning about them is probably pretty smart. I said that the video here was for future programmers, so you might qualify as a future programmer if you're enrolled in a class of some sort where you're expected to write some code and do some things with web pages, or you might qualify as a future programmer if you are just one of those awesome people who want to learn something new. You want to learn how web pages work. You want to acquire a new skill. In either case, you are a future programmer, and I'm glad that you're watching this. So before I get too carried away, let me just say if you end up liking the material here, please take a moment to click the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and share this content with your friends. I'll remind you to do those things again later, but I thought I'd say them up front. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what we can expect to do together here. Again, my name is Jeremy Schaefer. I'm faculty in the MIS department at Temple University, and I teach programming courses there. And I love the challenge and pleasure of introducing students to technology that don't have a deep technical background, right? So this is very much in keeping with what I enjoy doing. I said on the prior slide that this video was for future programmers. Another word for programmer, as far as I'm concerned, would be web developer. A web developer is a kind of programmer, but for all my purposes here, I'm going to treat them as if they're the same thing. So if you aspire to be a web developer, this is a great place for you to be. There are some sort of adjacent disciplines there, web designer and graphic artist. Now, they are different things. Web developer, web designer, graphic artist, they're all different. And if you want to be any one of those things, knowing some HTML and CSS is good, but this video material is really oriented towards the developer. And the developer is that sort of person who wants to take multiple technologies and bring them together and to create a solution. You want to solve a problem. You want to create something that's interactive, right? A graphic artist is interested in evoking emotion with images. A web designer is interested in, creating a good structure to deliver content, but often that content doesn't change, right? A web developer is creating something that's interactive and that changes. And so the good news is that if you want to be a web developer, you don't need to know all there is to know about HTML. You don't need to know all there is to know about CSS. You just need a certain subset of those two languages to get started. And that's what I want to present to you. And more importantly, or just as importantly, I want to present to you that subset in such a way that you don't have to go back in a year or 6 months or 18 months and relearn a bunch of things or undo a bunch of work that you've already done. So I want to present this material to you in such a way that I give you just enough to get started, but what I've given you is solid. And it's adhering to some best practices and standards that are going to make you're going to get you started in the right direction, and so you don't have to backpedal at some point in the future. So here's our agenda for this first chapter. We're going to cover some really, really fundamental things. What's a text file? What's a browser? And what's a screen reader? Now, you might think that that's really, really rudimentary, but I think it's a smart move to start here. And the reason I say that is I have, as an instructor, I have sometimes fallen into the trap of believing that my audience just knows all of these things. And often there's at least some percentage of my students who don't know all of these things or don't know them as well as I might expect them to. So I like to make sure everybody's starting from the same level playing field as much as I can. All right, so that's my goal here with this first chapter. We're going to talk about those three things, take a little break, and my big idea here is, number one, you don't need to know it all, and number two, I'm starting all this with zero assumptions about what your background is. All right, sound good? Let's go.